like to call to order the February 12th, 2020 public meeting of the Virginia Beach Planning Commission. My name is Dee Oliver, and I am the chair of the Planning Commission. And before we get started, I have asked Commissioner Inman to lead us in prayer and Commissioner Horsley to lead us in the pledge.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today thanking you for your guidance and wisdom. As we begin this hearing today, guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Help us to remember our responsibility to serve our community with great insight, guided by understanding, wisdom, and respect for all. As we make decisions today, help us to promote the common good as we work together for the betterment of our great city. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. And Commissioner Alvarez is going to introduce the members.
Thank you, Chairman. On my right is Kay Wilson, our well-respected city attorney. My name is George Alvarez. I'm a local contractor in the Beach District. To my left is Jack Wall, city engineer in the Rose Hall District. And beside him is Dan Horsley, a farmer at large. And of course, we have our chairwoman, Dee Oliver, at large. And next to her is Dave Weiner, who's a commercial sales in the Kentsville District, which is also our vice chairman. Next to him is Mike Inman, a real estate attorney at large. And then we have Dave Redmond, a commercial real estate in the Bayside District. And then we have Whitney Graham, a land developer in the Lynn Haven District. And then again, a farmer is Steve Barnes in the Princess Anne District. And I want to introduce you our planning director, Bobby DeHaan, if he can introduce his staff.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez. Clerking today, we have Delina Cartwright and Pam Stanloop. As part of the planning department staff, we have Carolyn Smith, our planning administrator, Kevin Kemp, our zoning administrator, Bill Landfair, Marshall Coleman, Kathy Warren, our SGA manager, Debbie Zivina, Wadow, Summer Peebles, Will Miller, and also with the city attorney's office. Oh, I'm sorry, and I left out Jonathan Sanders also from the planning. With the city attorney's office, we have Tori Eisenberg, and with Public Works, we have Rick Lumen here.
Great. Thank you very much. First order of business today is the explanation of the rules that we use to run our meetings, and our city clerk will explain those to us at the end.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Virginia Beach Planning Commission takes pride in being fair and courteous to all parties in attendance. It is important that all involved understand how the commission normally conducts its meetings. It is equally important that everyone treat each other and the members of the commission with respect and civility. The commission requests that if you have a cell phone, please either silence it or turn it off. This is an abbreviated explanation of the rules. The complete set of rules is located in front of the Planning Commission agenda. Following is the order of business for this public hearing. Withdrawals and deferrals. The chairman will ask if there are any requests to withdraw or defer an item on the agenda. Consideration of these requests will be made first. The consent agenda. The second order of business is the consideration of the consent agenda, which are those items that the Planning Commission believe are unopposed and which have favorable staff recommendation. Then the regular agenda. The Commission will then proceed with the remaining items on the agenda. Speakers in support or opposition of an agenda item will have 3 minutes to speak, unless they are representing a large group such as a civic league or a homeowners association, in which case they will have 10 minutes. Please note that the actions taken by the Commission today are in the form of a recommendation to the Virginia Beach City Council. The final decision to approve or disapprove an application will be made by the City Council. The Commission thanks you for your attendance, and we hope that your experience here today leaves you feeling that you have been heard and treated fairly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next order of business is to address those items that have been withdrawn or deferred. If you have an item to be withdrawn, please come forward. Does anyone have an item to be withdrawn? All right, the chair is aware that the following items have a requested to be deferred. The first item agenda is item number 15. Is there any opposition to this being deferred? The next item is agenda item number 25 to be deferred. Is there any opposition for this application to be deferred? May I have a motion on the deferral of items 15 and 25, please?
Madam Chair, I move deferral of items 15 and 25.
Have a second?
Second.
Madam Chair, to clarify for the record, item 15 will be deferred date certain to the March Planning Commission date, while item 25 will be continued to the April Planning Commission date at the request of the applicant.
Right, thank you.
Vote is open. Commissioner Emmons?
By recorded vote of 9-0, agenda items 15 and 25 have been deferred.
Thank you. The next order of business will be to address those that have been placed on our consent agenda, and the vice chair will handle this portion of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today we have 21 items on the consent agenda. The first is item 1, KODU LLC and Ocean Properties, an application for modification of conditions of motor vehicle sales at 1159, 1165 Lynn Haven Parkway. Is the applicant in here today? No applicant. Okay, is there any opposition to this being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, Mr. Wall has been asked to read this into the record.
Okay, thank you. The 1.10 acre site consists of 3 parcels. The southern parcel, owned by Kodu LLC, is currently developed with a used car lot. The other 2 parcels, owned by Ocean Properties LLC, are undeveloped. The proposal is to expand the existing auto sales operation onto all 3 properties. Therefore, a modification of conditions to the existing conditional use permit for motor vehicle sales is requested. 2 separate conditional use permits exist on the properties. However, only one is active for the motor vehicles. And that's on the southern portion, the southern parcel at 1165 Lynn Haven Parkway. This application will supersede all previous city council actions and combine the use into one operation. There is a single vehicular ingress-egress that will remain along Lynn Haven Parkway. A 22-foot common access easement exists along the front of the property, adjacent to Lynn Haven Parkway. This easement provides vehicular access between the lots and the shopping center to the south and the B2 zone lots to the north. 20-foot utility easement exists along the back of the property. Due to the existence of these easements, the applicant will not be able to display vehicles in either area encumbered by these vehicles, or encumbered by these easements, nor will parking be permitted in the right-of-way. A condition has been added addressing the vehicle display area permitted on the site. The existing building serves as a sales office for the operation. No changes are proposed to the exterior of this building. Staff recommends approval, and there's no opposition. Therefore, we place this item on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Next is item number 5, Spence Crossing Properties, an application for conditional rezoning, conditional B4 mixed use with PDH2 Planned Unit Development Overlay to a conditional 836 PDH2 Planned Unit Development Overlay at the intersections of Princess Anne Road, Independence Boulevard. Is there applicant available? Come forward, please. State your name for the record, please.
Nick Baum with Dragus Associates LC.
Great. All the conditions acceptable?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any opposition to this being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, Mr. Inman has been asked to read this in the record.
Thank you, Mr. Weiner. This application is, the property is located, as you can see on the map up there on the southwest corner of Princess Anne Road and South Independence Boulevard. It's a 14.5-acre site. In 2007, the City Council rezoned a 130-acre site for what was then known as SPENCE Farm in order to develop a community of single-family dwellings, townhouses, apartments, with approximately 26 acres of commercial and office space. The approved plan included nearly 200,000 square feet of retail and office, as well as a 6-floor hotel with 150 rooms. In 2017, City Council approved a rezoning of approximately half of the original commercial acreage to remove the hotel and reduce the amount of retail and office space. Since that time, and in response to market changes, the applicant now desires to eliminate 14.5 acres of remaining commercial property and instead construct up to 224 residential units in 16 buildings in the form of multifamily buildings, both 3-story garden flats and 2-story quad buildings. The residential units will be designed in substantial conformance with the existing architectural style and finished materials present in the other neighborhoods within the Spence Crossing community. 3-story garden flats will average approximately 1,300 square feet, while the 2-story quad units will average approximately 1,750 square feet in size. Landscape buffers, including undulating berms and variable height plantings, will surround the residential units and be similar in style to what now exists in the Spence Crossing community. The Spence Crossing development continues to mature this is a staff evaluation, continues to mature with a mixture of high-quality residential choices that include single-family dwellings, townhouses, quadruplexes, and apartments. The proposed addition of 224 dwelling units and the elimination of the commercially zoned property is, in the staff's opinion, acceptable. The submitted proffered site layout and elevations, along with the previously approved design guidelines that remain in effect, all provide confidence that the site will be developed in an attractive and logical manner. Significant amenities and plant materials are also proffered to improve livability for residents and provide a seamless visual transition with the existing Spence Crossing community. There is believed to not to be a significant impact on schools or transportation matters. Based on these considerations, the staff recommended approval, and we have placed it on the consent agenda.
Great, thank you. Next is item number 6, the City of Virginia Beach, an ordinance to adopt and incorporate into the Virginia Beach Comprehensive Plan, the Virginia Beach Area Strategic Action Plan 2030, which supersedes the Virginia Beach Resort Area Strategic Action Plan of 2008, and to amend sections 1.1. And Mrs. Warren is going to come up and read this into the record for us, or tell us about this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Kathy Warren. I am the SGA Manager for the Department of Planning and Community Development. And today, as you have already read, the ordinance is, we are requesting an ordinance to adopt and to incorporate the Virginia Beach into the Virginia Beach Comprehensive Plan, the Virginia Beach Resort Area Strategic Action Plan 2030, which supersedes the Virginia Beach Resort Area Strategic Action Plan of 2008, and to amend sections 1.1, Planning Areas Planned Land Use Map, 1.2, Urban Areas Strategic Growth Area Locator Map, and text pertaining to the Resort Strategic Growth Area. And then what I'd like to do is just go over briefly the proposed priority items that the steering committee has established as part of this process. And those are to adopt the best practices of a central management entity, develop a comprehensive mobility plan, design and implement streetscape improvements, enhance and develop connected green and open spaces, design and construct a gateway at 21st Street that provides a sense of welcome and arrival, support impactful projects that benefit the resort area as well as the city of Virginia Beach, and then support residential and mixed-use development within the resort area. Just a few additional comments about the process. This was a 15-month process with a steering committee that was in place that represented all facets of the resort area. Our public engagement included 2 workshops and 2 publicinput.com surveys. We were able to reach over 3,000 people with that public engagement process. And finally, one important point to make note of, we showed conceptual renderings in the plan. One of Rudy Loop, one of the Atlantic Avenue, of what it could look like, and then one of the Gateway at 21st Street. And we just want to reiterate the fact that these are conceptual renderings that we showed in order to generate input from the public to see what they liked and did not like. By no means does that establish what the final plan is for any of those, and there will be a public process for each of those going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any opposition to this being placed on the consent agenda? Thank you. Madam Chair, the remaining items on the consent agenda are for short-term rental. The Planning Commission places the following applications for a conditional use permit for short-term rental on the consent agenda as these applications meet the applicable requirements for Section 241.2 of the zoning ordinance. Staff supports the applications, therefore there's no opposition to the request. And these are for items number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. That being said, I move for approval on the consent.
Oh, no, 25 was a deferral.
Oh, I'm sorry, 25 is deferral. Thank you. Okay. That being said, I move for approval on the consent agenda items. I have to read these again. 1, 5, and 6. Yes. 26, yes. 1, 5, and 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 26.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I need to make a disclosure that at least one item on the consent agenda shows financing by Town Bank. I serve on the advisory board for Virginia Beach Town Bank. In that capacity, I don't make any decisions on loans or it's merely an advisory position, so I will be voting on these matters.
Those items are 10, 11, 12, and 18.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I too need to disclose that I am on a board at Town Bank of those same items.
Okay.
And I will be
Thank you.
voting today.
Great. Yes. Commissioner Weiner.
Madam Chair, I need to abstain on item number 5, Spence Crossing at the corner of Princess Anne Road and Independence Boulevard. The developer is my client.
Anyone else? Okay. Make a motion?
I made a motion.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, wait a second. I need a second.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. Thank you.
The vote is open.
By recorded vote of 9-0, agenda items 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 26 have been approved by consent, with Commissioner Weiner abstaining from agenda item number 5.
Great. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank all the applicants for coming down today who had a matter on the consent agenda and attending the hearing. All these items will be scheduled for hearing with the City Council to be announced. And so if you'd like to take this opportunity to leave before we start our hearings, you are welcome to do so. Thank you again for coming down. The next order of business will address the remaining matters on our agenda. And I would ask the city clerk to call the first item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our next item of business is agenda item number 2, Justin MILEY, which is an application for a conditional use permit, a residential kennel, on property located at 3253 Hungarian Road, located in the Princess Anne District. If the applicant or the applicant's representative is present, would you please approach the podium and state your name?
And I just want to remind all our speakers today that to be respectful of our time limit, which is 3 minutes.
Justin Miley,
How are you?
pretty good.
Good. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your application today?
It's just for hunting, 6 hunting dogs. I'm moving from Chesapeake to Virginia Beach to my new property. I've had them for 10 years, so I'm just pretty much moving them over to my new house.
Okay.
And that's about it.
All right, great. Well, why don't you take a seat, and then we'll see who the next speaker is. Thank you.
We have one speaker, Madam Chair, Carrie Scott Jr.
Welcome.
Hello,
If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Kerry Scott Jr.
Okay.
I'm opposed to this for 3 main reasons. 1 being noise, 2 being safety, and 3, the health and environmental risk. I own the property adjacent to his, to the west. So as far as noise, average dog bark is 85 decibels. He's applied for a permit for up to 15 dogs. Just to kind of give an idea, a rock concert's 110 decibels. A jackhammer from 50 feet away is 95 decibels. OSHA requires employers to implement a noise conservation program when workers are exposed to anything over 85 decibels, which is the same as an average dog bark. Safety, there's 800,000 dog bites per year in the U.S. Children are most frequently bit in the face, neck, and head, and half of those 800,000 involve children. And then health and environment. In 1991, the EPA labeled dog feces as a non-point source pollutant, which puts it in the same category as herbicides, insecticides, oil, grease, and toxic chemicals. The EPA says 15 days worth of waste from 15 dogs would contribute enough pollution to close a beach and all watershed areas within 20 miles of it to swimming and shellfishing. So out there, we're on well water. So I'm greatly concerned with how the feces would be handled and how it could impact the quality of our drinking water. Dog feces is also one of the most common carriers of whipworms, hookworms, roundworms, and even the coronavirus, which we've been hearing a lot about. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I do. Point out
Yeah.
where your house is.
Right there, well, it's not my house. It's, I just purchased the property with the plan to build a house. Right there where the word proposed would be is my property.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Scott?
So
Yes.
where, your house, I see the property where the proposed kennel structure is.
Yep.
Is your house going to be towards the roadway, or where's it going to be located?
So about,
Mr. Scott, there's a pointer
Oh.
right in front of you.
so the plan,
Does it not work?
the plan would be right in there.
So it's there's this, is the lot size about the same size as the applicant's?
It's, our lot is 20 acres. I believe theirs is 12 acres.
Okay, so a little bit bigger.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Ribman.
So, where you're gonna build that house, I mean, you've surveyed it and all that, I mean, how far are you?
We're still in the process of all that. You know, I'm sure you're aware, it takes a lot of time to get that through the city.
This is hardly a scientific observation, but it looks to me like that would be farther than what's indicated on that aerial as the closest dwelling. The closest dwelling is 400 feet, so how far is your house gonna be from that kennel?
I have not measured it. I would say
85 decibels is quite a different story if the dog's standing next to you than if it's 500 feet
but that's
away.
one dog too. This permit is for up to 15 dogs.
Yeah, but that doesn't change the decibels.
Yeah, they don't multiply.
They don't multiply by
Okay.
85 versus 1.
Okay.
That's like F-18's going over you versus one?
Okay.
Ain't no difference.
Understood.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mr. Scott,
George.
have you seen the condition number 3 with your concerns about the feces?
Okay.
He's getting a use permit, so one of the conditions is he has to lawfully dispose of that, or he jeopardizes his use permit.
How's that enforced?
We'll have to pass that on to.
So if you find that there's an issue, we can, again, this is a zoning matter, so if there are issues, we can check to see if it's not being picked up, also animal control.
I mean, y'all won't be checking my water quality, right?
No, that's your responsibility.
So, I mean, I have to bear those costs?
You would have to anyhow if you were gonna apply for a permit to put in a well.
I know,
But no matter what, after that, condemnation would be a legal issue, not a city issue.
I understand, but if there wasn't 15 dogs there, then I wouldn't have a concern and wouldn't be testing my
Well,
water
suppose there
quality.
was 15 cows there, how would you be with that?
I haven't researched the effects cow feces has on
Well, I guess the
contamination.
point I'm making is, what's the guy supposed to do? I mean, he owns the property and it's illegal to put the dogs there. I mean, he's jumped through all the hoops, he's got all the conditions, he's got all
I'm
the
here to voice my
permits.
concerns. Those are my concerns.
But you're betting on, you're saying something that might happen. And there's no way we can justify approving or disapproving on something that might happen.
Understand that, but then when it does, if it does happen, then I'm the one who, has to deal with those
Well,
consequences.
yeah, probably. I mean, since it's your property, yeah.
Yeah, there's no probably about it, but yeah.
So what do you suggest we do, since it's all legal by all the rules and regulations?
I mean, I would prefer not to have a
No,
kid.
what do you suggest we do? I mean, if you were in his position and it was legal for him to do that, what would you do?
I would do what he's done and applied for a permit.
Well, that's what he's doing. I mean, it's legal.
I understand.
I mean,
I'm asking y'all to vote against it. How about that?
Yeah, we got it. I got it. Yeah, I got it.
Let's put it very simple.
Yes, Don.
Wayne, I know this young man, been knowing him all my life.
Yes, sir.
I think rest assured that we wouldn't approve anything that would be detrimental to anything that would affect any nearby wells and all. There's several of them in that area. I'm very familiar with the property. I farm the property.
Yes, sir, you
as
do.
you know. I'm gonna farm your property until
Yes.
you build your house. So.
Yes, sir, you are.
So, and the city attorney said that that's not a conflict for me, so I can vote. So I'm just to tell you that this is something that's legal. The 15 is a number. I'm not sure that it's going to ever be 15.
It could be, though.
We can change that 15 also. So he's got 6 and 4. We could make it 10, which would cut it down a third. But rest assured that we wouldn't dare put anything there that would be detrimental to anybody, because these people's house there, the next neighbor that's building a house there, and the people that are living close in that area. But you'll be all right.
Yep.
You'll be all right.
I'm here to voice my opinion.
And I appreciate you doing that.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Would the applicant like to come back up and speak on the concerns?
Yeah.
Come on up. Maybe you can help him. Okay, go ahead, Don.
You've got 6 hunting dogs right now?
6 dogs and 6 house dogs, so they considered me to put all of them together, because you can only have 4 legally on a piece of property.
Yeah, 4 at the max
Yes.
before you have to get.
So with the 6, it's gonna be 10. And then, I got only 6 dogs, that's all I plan to have for hunting. And usually, every once in a while, I have a puppy, so I talked to Projects, I think his name was HOA. And if I kept the puppies up to 6 months, that falls underneath more license, and then I get rid, I wouldn't keep them all. I'm just gonna keep 6, that's my total, so.
So what I'm saying is, what's the number that you've got to have? You don't need 15.
10,
10.
because I got
10.
6 hunting dogs and 4 in the house.
Well,
But if I had a puppy, I didn't want somebody to come out there and,
He wanted, yeah, because in case he breeds them.
right.
so, say 12, if anything. Total.
Okay.
But I'm not breeding dogs. I don't plan on breeding.
It's just in case you get a puppy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do you, well, and the young man's concern was the disposal of the waste from the dogs. Do you want to address how you were planning on handling it?
I clean them up every day. I put them in a black trash bag and dispose it properly.
Okay.
Nothing goes in the ditch. I got dogs out there that drink water out of the ditch, so I'm the same way.
Okay, great.
And I agree with him. If I got cows or pigs, that'd probably be worse than have my dog. And they're on concrete. They're not even in the dirt, so that's another thing.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
We're going to close the hearing now and open it up for discussion amongst the commissioners.
He says he could get by with 10. I think that would be a better number to put down there, and I think that would help alleviate some of Mr. Scott's concerns. I would like to change that 15 to 10 and make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
The vote is open.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barnes?
No, ma'am, I think did somebody say second?
Yeah. No, you
I
got
thought they did, it wasn't me.
We need your
Oh,
vote.
vote.
We need your vote.
Oh, the vote is open. I got it.
By recorded vote of 9-0, agenda item number 2 has been approved with the condition as amended.
Thank you.
Our next item of business is agenda item number 3, Suzanne Nicole RUPP, an application for a conditional use permit, home-based wildlife rehabilitation facility on property located at 1916 Kempsville Crossing Lane, located in the Centerville District. Will the applicant or the applicant's representative please step to the podium?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Suzanne Rupp.
Okay, thank you. You have, would you like to tell us a little bit about your application?
I am seeking conditional use permit for wildlife rehabilitation in my home. The cages will be located in my laundry room. I only have room for 4 cages, so it won't be too many animals, but it'll help though with animals in need. It'll be small mammals. It'll be squirrels, possums, and bunnies. As a Category 1 permit holder, I can only have uninjured orphaned animals. And my mentor, she's sitting back here. She says that should there be an issue with having these animals outside in a soft release cage, so basically like an enclosure for the last couple weeks that before they're going to be released, if there is an issue with the community, any concerns about them, perhaps getting out for some reason, then she had agreed that I would just transfer the animals that I'm rehabilitating to her, and then she'll release them at her home in Chesapeake.
Okay, great, thank you. Why don't you have a seat, and we'll see with the next speaker.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have one speaker, Crystal Wiggins.
Welcome, Mrs. Wiggins.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Crystal Wiggins, and I strongly, strongly, vehemently oppose to this, and this is why. I didn't bring slides, but I did send some to the home on the property. You had a picture a little while ago of her home, and right beside it, there's a easeway you can see on your right-hand side, like the little park area. And if you go straight back there, there's a little park that you can take kids to. However, we've been there for about 4 years, and I always walk that way and sit. And so one day, not too long ago in December, I had my grandkids, and we were getting ready to go walk, and I look at her house, all on the top, particularly the back, and on the fence to the left side were buzzards everywhere, and to the point where they started to spread to the other home. So I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. Something has died. Something's going wrong. I've been here 4 years. I've never, ever seen this. Only time I've seen that many buzzards is when I go past the landfill, which is not that far from my home. So I took pictures, but I didn't realize. I sent them to the homeowner property. And I even drove around on the back side. We couldn't even walk. I was so terrified. and my grandkids were terrified. And I had a little Maltese, so I just scooped them up. So all I know is when you have that many buzzards, there's dead animals around, and it's not attractive to our home, to our street, and to the area where which is why I moved to the area, so I could walk and sit at that park. I normally go to Mount Trashmore every day, but that allows me to sit with the kids and take them to the park. And so, not only is it not a good look, but I know that health-wise, something's not right. I feel like that type of business or home wildlife that you want to do should be in an area that has more land and not in a one-street community. So,
Great.
that's what I feel.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Wiggins? Yes, Whitney.
Question, was it just one time that you saw the
Oh,
buzzards?
no, it was
It's
several
all the time?
weeks. I mean, it was like several days. Like, I kept driving by. I told my husband, because my husband mentioned it to me like 2 or 3 weeks way before, but I thought, you know, maybe he was thinking about when he drove past the landways. I didn't realize it was her particular home. And so I watched, I took pictures, I drove around, I kept walking. I said, what is going on? To the point I even called the homeowner association to ask to speak to the manager, because I wanted to talk to her to see if something had died in the water that was causing the buzzards to come. But she was on vacation at that time, and that was a week, so I said, I'll let a week go by. And then towards the first part of January, I called and I was able to reach her. And then but then when I saw the letter, the flyer in my mailbox, her asking the neighbors to support it, I said, oh, so this is what's going on. This makes sense, because in 4 years, I've never seen that, so. And it wasn't one day, it was several.
Did you inquire with her what was in the backyard that might have attracted that?
I didn't go and knock on her door.
Okay.
But I would assume if she's doing wildlife, possums, I've seen a possum in my backyard. I told my husband to open the fence and just, you know, let it go where it goes. Squirrels, rabbits, we see all the time.
Right.
So I don't see that as a sanctuary to have for your home for one street. And then they, like I said, the buzzards were on the top and on the side, but I took pictures where they had spread it out to the neighbor to her right and left on top of their home. So I can only imagine if that's.
Did you see them feeding, like on the ground?
There were some buzzards on the ground, there were buzzards on the fence, there were buzzards on the roof of her home, and it was like, I was like, what in the world's going on here? You know, so,
Mr. Weiner?
yes.
Were they buzzards or were they crows?
No, they were buzzards, not crows. I know exactly what a crow looks like. I know exactly what a buzzard looks like, because we live not too far from the
Double the size
landfill.
of a crow, so
Yeah.
it would be huge, big bird.
Yeah, this is gigantic. Yeah, totally different.
Mr. Redmond?
How many times did you say you saw this?
I watched it for about a week, and I kept calling, was trying to get in contact with the homeowner association. My husband had saw them several weeks before, and I kept watching. I was like, what? So then the water, there used to be the water that would spout in the middle of the lake, so I thought, and I didn't see that on, so I thought, well, maybe something's died. What's going on? There's something different in this property that has occurred, and then when I saw the flyer, I figured, okay, wildlife, something's going on here. So,
George?
Yeah, so do you live on this street?
I
or
do
your
live on that
neighbor?
street, 1837.
Where's that on the location?
I live
We go back
closer
to look.
towards when you're coming into, I'm like 10 houses on the right when you're going into the
On the
neighborhood.
same street? Oh,
Same street, it's only one street. It's just one street.
and you saw the buzzards on the?
On the
right-
back of her
on
house,
right
on the
and-
side of her property, on the backyard. I wish I had my phone, I
Let
could
me
just show you.
finish. And you saw them on the house next door too?
Yes.
Between, so you had the green space and you had that house?
Right, so her house is in the middle, so directly to her right, there's a home that's a little closer, okay, and then you have the easement that you can walk, and then there's the other house, and there were two on top of that home.
And that's a park?
It's like a little, what do you call it when you?
Area.
Is the,
Thank you, looking for the proper
let me
word.
ask you this question, is that lake her lake or is it a
No, it's
BMP?
No, it's a part of the,
I just see
Yeah.
depicted with the blue line, it looks like it's
Yeah.
their property. Is there fish in that lake?
I don't know, I
Does
don't
anyone
fish.
fish in it?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But they have it, you know how you
Yeah,
have the lakes
How long you
for.
been there? You haven't seen anyone?
I've been
fish?
there for 4 years, and I walk all the
No one
time.
fish? You haven't
I
seen-
mean, I've seen people out there in the summertime that may have a little pole, one or two. But it's, it's like your community lake. And my husband, who's an engineer for Verizon, shared that when they're doing plan development, things like that, that's just to help to relieve the pressure on the water. And so you have the little lake, and there's a couple little benches, one or two. But when you walk straight back, you can walk to the other neighborhood.
One
to the
last
park.
question. When did you see these buzzards? Or what time, what season, or,
Oh, it was like around December.
okay, just recently?
Yeah. And so my husband saw them like before, so I mean, I think I called around that time, and my husband saw them like earlier, like November and early. He's like, something's going on. It's like, I was like, what are you talking about? And then when I saw it for myself, I'm like, you did not describe that adequately at all.
Thank
Jack?
So,
I know, that was, he covered it.
Okay. Do y'all have ospreys around there? Ospreys. Do you have ospreys, big birds that nest way up in cell towers, et cetera?
I normally see, I used to live near Gravenhurst area where they had Swampy Lake, and so they have those type of birds and things over there, but not.
Not in that neighborhood?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. The only problem that we've ever had, which is, it's not really a problem, but it is what it is because it's nature, and that's, the geese that come and go.
Right.
Seasonal. That's what I've always, and we were just used to that, so, but not.
You see geese on the lake there?
Yeah, when it's time. They come and go when the time comes. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Absolutely. If you'd like to come up and see if you can address her concern, would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the vultures have been a problem even for us. I think you have this agenda in front of you. It's on page 9. You see, we had to put our patio furniture away because they would keep pulling at it. And 7 of our screens on the main floor, we have to replace because there's holes that vultures have ripped out. We think they're coming by because they love to swim or take little baths in the lake that's right behind us, and then they'll sleep in our grass right in the backyard. I haven't seen them in weeks, but they would come in batches, and then some days wouldn't see them. So it really depends on, I noticed when it's warmer out, that's when they would come by. And we are right by the landfill, so they live close by. But I think that's the main attraction is the water, honestly, because that's what we see them do. They'll splash around and they'll come back out, and we don't mess with them because, they're wildlife. Doesn't matter, it happens. And they'll just sleep there, and we don't harm them or anything. We just let them sleep and take a bath, and they just come and go. I know it's very random.
So,
Yes.
so when one of the animals you're rehabilitating, when it dies, I'm sure it happens from time to time, how do you dispose of the animal carcass?
Well, first, I don't have any animals right now because my permit is it's based on this approval.
So right now, you don't have any?
I don't have any. So the vultures coming there has nothing to do with any wildlife that I have. So I've never disposed any wildlife
So
or
you
anything.
didn't kind of try it out and have some animals there?
No,
Okay.
I've not.
Yes. Mr. Barnes?
Yes. Do you, but the buzzards are not there now, right?
No, they're not. I didn't see any. I haven't seen any in a couple weeks.
Right.
I see them flying around occasionally. but-
They migrate. There's 2 kinds of buzzards here. There's the turkey vulture and the black vulture. That's the 2 kinds. The turkey vulture is common here. Black vulture has just come here within the last 15 years, and they migrate in and out more so than the turkey, and that doubles their numbers, basically. They don't like to stick together. They'll be in the same area. They have 2 different food sources. The black vulture, I have trouble with them with calves. They'll actually, and they're protected. You can't, it's like any other bird of prey. You can't destroy them. So they'll actually attack them. If the calf is somewhat inhibited at birth, they'll eat them. So, but the turkey buzzard doesn't. But they don't bother people. It's not that they're not like an eagle or something that will occasionally take a person, if they're small.
Right.
But they migrate in and out. They're nasty. They're ugly. They don't hurt anything.
Right.
But were you feeding them?
No,
I
I
mean,
wasn't.
was there any carrion there or any reason for them to be there?
Sometimes there's like dead fish that float up, I noticed.
No, were you doing it?
No, I was not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would think they were just migrating, happened to be that time, and they do, in the fall and in the spring. That'd be my thoughts. They probably come and go. Yeah, they're unsightly, there's no doubt about that. So, so far as taking care of the animals, I guess, it's okay with me, as long as it doesn't bother anybody else, and you let them go when they're rehabilitated.
Right. And they won't be released in the community.
I do have one question. You made reference to the fact that they're tearing up your screen.
Yes.
So that gives me real concern about having your wildlife rehabilitation customers in that screened-in area. If they're, it's nothing for a vulture to go through a screen.
Well, that's for the window screen, but the enclosure, if it's allowed, then it would have, already has like a kind of a mesh wire. I guess you can kind of see it on there, and then I would
No,
put.
we didn't see much.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Then, other than the furniture.
So, yes, and then I was going to put some other, I forgot what the wire is called, but sorry, I'm blanking on what it's called. But there's a wire, it has very
Little
small
round holes?
Yes,
Poultry-
it's like a
poultry net.
second layer. But again, if the soft enclosure is not approved, that's totally fine. My mentor said that she'll take the animals whenever they're ready for the pre-release. But otherwise, the animals will always be in the cages in my laundry room.
Okay. Jack? Yes?
I'm just curious, do you own, is the lake within your property
Yes,
boundaries?
it is.
Okay.
We own 1.92 acres, and the lake itself, it's kind of weird. I guess it's owned by the city, but we own all the land around it. And we're not allowed to have the whole property fenced in because HOA prohibits that. Otherwise, we would, but because in case that's a concern of animals getting loose or whatnot, we can't fence in the whole thing.
Yes, George?
So I had asked before, so is there fish in the pond?
There are fish.
So do you have
They're
to
like
clean
large
that?
carps.
Do you clean the fish when they're dead? You said they're dead?
Yeah, they just float in the water.
pick them
Unless they come to the shore, but most of the time, I don't know what animals are getting them, but they're gone. Like, I'll see them floating, like, it's kind of a large pond, but I don't have like a skimmer or anything.
I just wondered if they were.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for answering that.
Anybody else? Yes, Mike?
Question for our bird expert down there. Is there anything about the
Would that be
water?
me?
Is there any, that would be you.
You're
What's
closest
what?
we got, man.
Why? You ain't got much. What?
Would there be anything about the water that would be attractive?
No, but she asked about osprey. Osprey, all they eat is fish, and that's it. And they'll dive and catch them even though they're not web-footed, they eat them. But it's migration, like I say, buzzards are nasty. They're nasty, and they're, unsightly to look at simply because you know what they eat. But something has to eat that, and I doubt very seriously they eat anything out of the water. I would say no.
I haven't seen them.
I don't
taking
think so.
baths.
It's mainly carrion, and they actually serve a purpose, they just do, and you just happen to be in their flight path, the way it appears to me. I've had it happen in my house, and I bet Don has. I've had them sit on top of my house periodically for a day or two, then they're gone. And I don't feed them. But
Well, she says they're gone now. When are they coming back? How often do they come back?
you have to ask them. I don't know when they're coming back. But I would say in next fall or next spring when migration, that would be my guess. Now, they might show up tomorrow.
Oh.
I don't know.
I know no warranties on that.
No,
Well,
there's no warranty.
We had them, but it was because the ospreys were dropping the fish.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's only two reasons they're there, and that's to reproduce and eat. Just like just about everything else is around, so that's why they're there.
If I can, let me make sure I understood you correctly. You don't have any animals now. You haven't been caring for any animals at your property.
That's correct. I have my domestic pets, but no wild animals at all. So I
You have
have.
to have a permit for that from the state in order to have.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Which I can't get yet until this is approved.
So we're doing all this on a proposal?
Yeah.
Okay.
But my point is, presumably the idea of these turkey vultures, very probably. I mean, I got them in my house. I live in thorough suburbia. And I walk out to the street and there's these odd-looking animal out there. Yeah, it's probably me, but they, but in any event, so there has to be some sort of causal link here. She's not causing these birds to come to her house. She's not caring for any wildlife at the moment. Whatever reason they're there, it's not you, is what I can tell. Thank you.
Yes, any more questions? No more questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know, but I can't. Huh? No. We're gonna close this hearing, just for the commissioners,
Lives on a farm.
and open it up for discussion.
Kills me.
Okay, come on up.
You're not gonna be mad at me, are you?
No, I just
Oh,
want to
okay.
make something clear to you. I just want to make something clear. I've been there for 4 years.
Yes, ma'am.
There, before they moved in, the home was empty. We've never in 4 years seen any buzzards. It's always been geese. I find it interesting that prior to the flyer coming out, I'm sure the interest to do wildlife was probably there. I'm not sure kind of what inspired, but since she's put the proposal in, there haven't been any animals there. There have been no buzzards.
Yeah, but she hasn't put anything there, I mean, for the buzzards to be there, is that correct, since she's not doing this? I guess what you're saying is because she's gonna do what she's applying to do, that she's called the buzzard to be there, because she hadn't had any animals there.
I'm saying that something was going on there prior to the permit, is what I'm saying. And buzzards were everywhere, and they're not turkey buzzards, they're buzzards. And now that we're in this process and we've been waiting for a few weeks, they're not, well, whatever, buzzards, turkey buzzards, it's just, imagine one street and you walk out and they're everywhere and you have kids.
Unsightly.
No, they're more than unsightly, they're terrifying.
Well, they won't hurt you.
I'm not as.
It's not a wildlife community area, is what I'm saying. That's not the type of street or home community that
Right.
is that area.
Right. I'm not an expert on this, but I will tell you, anywhere there's water, you're gonna have geese, and geese, just like all of us, die at some point. And when a goose dies, those vultures are on it. And I can tell you, I
Yeah,
have a
but I've
lot
been there
next to
for
my
4
house.
years. I've
I
been
live
there
on the
for 4
water,
years. We've
and
never
we've
seen
had dead
vultures
geese,
on a home,
and
ever.
we get them all in the field next to us, and
Yeah,
they're
we've had
nasty
geese,
looking
we have geese come up and down the street. Never in 4 years that I've been there and prior to me looking at the property for a year, have I ever seen any vultures,
Yeah, but I mean, it's,
buzzards.
they're opportunists. And if
Right, but
there's
I
a
just
goose,
don't think that,
You're gonna see one.
I'm sure that our community is not quite aware of what that looks like. And like I said, I happen to walk all the time and I see, so it's just like, I'm just sharing that our particular street, that one little street in the back of her home is just, I don't think it's appropriate area for a wildlife, home-based wildlife, for squirrel and possums and rabbits.
Well, the one thing is.
To attract that.
The application, she's only gonna have 4 cages, so inside her house. With that being said, that if going forward and there are any problems that you notice, there's certainly, you can certainly make phone calls to the city so that they can come out and take a look at what's going on.
Well, not only that, I mean, I don't even think the homeowner association is not even zoned for that, so I guess that's why we're here, but I'm just saying, imagine it's like,
well,
that's the whole purpose, is to come and share. And so that affects, if she was backed up and it wasn't where you could walk and it's just her backyard and nobody could ever walk by and do the park, then that's fine. It's her, it's private. But it's not. It's open
Right.
to
It's a
the
park.
rest of the area. And that's why a lot of us moved there, so we could have that little area to walk and take our kids and dogs and so forth. And her home, her backyard is backed up into the lake, so yes, her home is fenced in on the side of her property, but it's not the whole rest of the park where you can walk by. If it was
Right.
just that and some trees, fine.
Right, but she's not allowed to fence in the entire lake.
Exactly.
Even though that is part of her property.
Well, the whole entire lake isn't, just the direct back portion, straight right behind where you can see. Her backyard, that's her property, straight back there. But the rest of the lake is not.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We're going to close this commission hearing and open it up for discussion.
I think we done had it.
Mhm.
I think we've already.
We've had it. We discussed it.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know what to tell you about the buzzards. They're gonna come and go. If the lady's not feeding them there, I don't think there's much you can do about that. And if it's by code, it's legal for her to do the wild game rehabilitation, which I assume is what that is. And, then it's legal. Nothing you can do about the fact that buzzards go here, buzzards go there for whatever reason. Like I said before, it's not pretty, but it's, a lot of things in nature aren't. Well, look at me. But in any case, so I'm gonna move that we approve.
Mr. Redmond.
Second. You're pretty, though. You're pretty.
Vote is open.
Thank you.
By a vote of 9-0, agenda item number 3 has been approved.
Thank you very much.
I got to go.
Okay, our next item is agenda item number 4, Princess Anne Witch Duck Associates 1 LC.
I got to go.
An
One second.
application.
1 second, ma'am, I'm sorry. Just a note for the record, Mr. Barnes is leaving the meeting.
Thank you.
Item number 4 is an application for a conditional use permit, eating and drinking establishment on property located at 5161 Princess Anne Road, located in the Kempsville District. Would the applicant or the applicant's representative please step to the podium?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. No buzzards on our property. Promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know.
Don't talk about
geese.
that, Steve left.
A lot of geese.
For the record, I'm Randy Royal with Kimley Horn Associates, representing Robinson Development on this application. Council recently approved this drive-through as a conditional use in the B4K zoning. This is a piece of property that the city has owned for 10 years. When that intersection was relocated, Princess Anne and Witch Duck, this was a residual piece of property that economic development has been trying to find the right use, the right developer to make something happen. They've had some failed attempts, as you spoke to this morning, with Walgreens, which unfortunately stopped building right after they came in. But we believe we have the right use now. Staff spent a lot of time coming up with guidelines and standards for where the building should go, the architecture, et cetera. The buildings, and have we got a slide of the site plan? There we go. The buildings were to be all up front, but we've had some environmental concerns on the site. There was an old laundry on this site, and there is a plume. There it is. There's a plume right in this area, and it comes down this way to the site. Cannot be removed. It's 50 feet, maybe deeper, of that stuff. That stuff is just nasty. The way you handle that is you cap it. We cannot put residential on this property. We cannot do water quality in the area close to the contamination. That's why we've, God, this thing didn't work very well. That's why the building has moved back. I can't get the pointer to work. But the building can go on top of it because we can cap it. We can put the building in with a vapor barrier. It caps the pollutant. We can put parking lot up in that upper right corner and cap the pollutant. We're not having drainage in there other than pipes to go through it. The water quality we're going to have is going to be in the front field where we don't have a building now. That's one of the reasons for moving it there. And my client's been working with the Citizens Advisory Committee for a year and a half on this to come up with this layout and this architecture, which we'll talk about that a little bit too. The architecture is very close. We've got the chairman of the architecture committee for the CAC. I think he's here and going to speak today to you. There's a meeting tomorrow night to finalize it, but we're very, very close. Typically, you don't have things completely done with the architecture. That's a picture there. I think they may tweak it a little bit. Again, working with the CAC and working with the planning department staff. Timing, You mentioned that this morning. The developer is quite anxious to get things done. His contracts, he has some contracts already, and we can speak to that also, but the original contracts require to have him to have buildings done by June. That's not going to happen at this point, but we're pushing to get it done as quickly as we can. He's trying to keep some of the tenants online to rent month by month where they are. Once we get through this, then he can give them a better idea of when we're going to commit. The tenant for this drive-through, I can't really mention in an open forum here, but that tenant has signed a letter of intent. They've said that they will sign a lease as soon as he gets control of the property, which this has to happen, and then there's a land sale involved with economic development. Language on the stipulation, staff mentioned this morning that they had changed on a couple of them. We went back and forth with Mr. Landfair and appreciate his efforts. But the language on the setbacks, that was clarified, and we're fine with that. And the language on the speakers not being adjacent to residential, which we don't really have here, so we're fine with that. There were a couple others I'd like for you to consider if you can. No signage for the drive-through on the building or the site, and limiting the canopy size. In both cases, staff still has full control. We'll review this and decide what works and what doesn't. I want to maintain as much flexibility as possible for the architect, for the developer, and staff and the CAC are going to have their say as to what they like or don't like out there. Developers here to answer any questions, specifically if there's questions about the deal points. We believe we've got a good project. Staff has recommended approval, and we hope you'll see fit to recommend approval to City Council. I'll stand by for questions.
Any other questions? Dave?
Tell me more about the environmental. He says it's clustered up in that upper right-hand corner, Randy, you said?
Right.
Actually, before you do, excuse me, why does the city acquire contaminated properties again?
This property was.
It's a residual from the road projects, I understand that,
Right.
but we have surveyors and presumably we test these things. We go ahead and buy properties that are contaminated with this nasty stuff?
Well, during the time frame of when they were doing the Princess Anne Road realignment, as you know, during the painful decision of how to align Princess Anne Road, there were multiple locations chosen and how we ended up with the one that we had. I believe that one of them was actually to go right through some of this contaminated area, but due to the inability to acquire certain properties, that we shifted and pivoted where we were putting Princess Anne Road. I believe that's why this was acquired in that fashion, not just because we knew it was contaminated.
Yeah. It just strikes me as odd that we like go ahead and acquire problems.
Dave, can I add to that real quick?
Yeah.
Way back when, I was probably in high school, there was actually a city building on this property. The tax office was there, the one that's at Kempsville Shopping Center now. I believe the city owned the property back then. If I'm not mistaken, the strip shop, if I'm not mistaken, that could be wrong, but I don't know if anybody can tell me that information. But I believe the city owned the property back then and owned the shop because the city tax office was on that property.
I have a hard time believing we were a landlord for a dry cleaner, but
Well, that's what I said, I don't know, I don't remember, but somebody told me that way back years ago.
in any event, that was an aside. So, but we've got a problem that we got to do, and so it's got to be resolved. So, you say that the contamination is in that upper right-hand corner?
Yes.
Or which building is sitting on top of and capping the contamination?
The worst of the contamination is up here.
Okay.
This building are sitting on top of the contamination. This pointer is really bad. Can y'all see that?
Nope.
Yeah.
No. Where?
Yeah, go for
it. That's the area where the drainage, the underground drainage will go.
Okay.
Where it's farthest away. And I failed to mention, but I mean, we've done a lot of work on behalf of the city with DEQ, and we have a plan, and part of that plan, as I said, is to cap it and to not put, they've got stipulations on us as on the city, and of course the developer will go with it, as to how the property can be developed, what has to be done to mitigate the impacts. And unfortunately, this is one of those things, when it's the laundry, that stuff goes deep, it's nasty, you can't dig it out, it just goes forever, so you have to do things like capping it and have vapor barriers.
Okay. And so this is all about a drive-through though, right? So
Yes, sir.
that was largely for my, just to understand the nature of the property there. This is all about the drive-through. So you can't tell me who the tenant is. I know who the tenant is. But so is Walgreens. And Walgreens isn't there, which tells me that we'd gone all through that process with Walgreens and they didn't have a purchase contract or they didn't have a lease. They might have had a signed letter of intent, but that doesn't get you anything. The only thing that gets you is a kind of a promise.
And I don't know the details on that deal. I wasn't involved with it. I do know that at about that time, and you and I both go to these shopping center conventions, Walgreens just didn't show up. They just kind of rolled up the doors and said, we're stopping development. They weren't at their booth. They shut everything down. It's unfortunate, but that's what happened. There's no real guarantees. I mean, and again, I'm avoiding saying the retailer's name here, but it's a neat retailer we all know and love, and they're big, and they're not going away. And that's again, you typically have a major anchor, which is usually a big box of some type. This is not a big box, but it's kind of the major anchor that if you get that, lots of people want to be around it.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think that's, I understand that, and I don't necessarily, what I'm trying to do is figure out whether or not we're enhancing someone's site plan, or there's really a development here that will be catalyzed by this. Because originally with Walgreens and a lot of other sites, we're just kind of enhancing someone's site plan. And if that's the case, then let's just say so. But, so I was looking for greater certainty out of that. I'm not going to get it. I understand that. And I don't necessarily, that doesn't mean I oppose it necessarily either, but I think we have to start clarifying some of these instances where it looks like we're just kind of messing around on a map instead of, you have a real development that's taken.
And
So
I
that was
could-
my concern. And I wish I could have gotten more. I don't know if there can be. Lots and lots of times, these developments get done because you got to get to 60 or 70% leased before you can get a loan. Not letters of intent, you got to have signed leases, and which have contingencies very often on the developer actually acquiring the property. They don't do that when they sign one lease or two leases. They do that when they get a whole bunch more, which means those earlier ones have to have contingencies in there for just that. So I think that's quite possible to be done. So I don't want to argue with you. That's my concern. I mean, I think on this very piece of property, we've had concern before where we just kind of mess around with something that's not really there. And I was just trying to be sure that there's something here instead of just kind of a bunch of sketches.
I really
Sketches
believe
are
there
good,
is.
but I mean,
Really believe
I'd
there is.
prefer that it be stronger than that.
Mr. Edmund?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just.
And I'm not necessarily going
Subscribe.
to, that's not necessarily mean I'm going to oppose it, but I kind of like to really figure out what's here.
Okay.
Anybody else? Mr. Wall?
Okay, well, I understand, let's just get this, out there, that I understand it's a conditional use permit for eating and drinking establishment with drive-through window. So that's what this application is for. I've got a couple things, though. Architecture. You mentioned that you have somebody here from the Citizens Advisory Committee that can
Correct.
speak on that.
Yes, sir. He's signed up to speak, Mike Anderson? Yes.
Can
You want
he
to bring
kind
him
of
up?
give the details? Sure, if that's appropriate. Is
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Okay.
he can
Yeah,
come up. Come on
yeah, he
up.
can come up.
I'll stand by if you.
Okay, all right. So, specifically, so how does this?
Hold on one second. Jack.
Okay.
Could you state your name? for
Mike
record?
Anderson.
Mike Anderson, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Wall.
Okay, so can you speak on how this meets or doesn't meet, or the intent? Because there is a plan, that was established, and back in 2006, the Historic Kempsville Area Master Plan.
Right.
So to kind of outline some of the architectural features that, back in 2006, the group of people got together and they sat down and they felt that, these would be appropriate guidelines for architecture going in this area. And I think, both, all four quadrants, but, in particular, the northwest quadrant. So there are a couple, I've looked at it and you can see the elevation views or the, kind of the rendering there. What are, just trying to get your thoughts on the architecture of this?
Well, I mean, like you said, we've been doing it for a long time. I've been there for about 10, 11 years now. Working with Walgreens, same scenario that we worked, with Robinson Development on this. It's evolved over the past 2 years or so that we've been working Robinson. There are some changes that we would like to make, but we haven't, we're working on that, just like they said earlier, that we'll be talking tomorrow night to finalize some of the changes that we've verbally discussed, which will bring it to more colonial looking like we have anticipated, and what the city originally put in their proffers, 2006.
Okay, so how does, because one of the conditions, and this isn't necessarily for you, and this may be more for the city, because a condition in there's, I think it's the last, it's probably the last condition that, the architecture or the site features are supposed to generally conform to the master plan for the Kempsville area master plan. So, we approve it now, it looks like that's all that they have to build to, as part of our recommendation. So how does that, all right.
I don't think we're locking specifically into this architecture here. I think that,
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, but your comment there says that it's got to adhere to the standards, the guidelines that you've set up. We're not stamping this as approved. This is to give you an idea of how close we are, but ultimately you guys are going to review and approve it, right?
Correct. That is correct. We have not attached this rendering as one of your conditions that they shall build this.
So the rendering's not going
All
to be
right.
proffered.
Correct.
Right, so
Okay,
there's still,
very good.
there's
Okay.
still room.
And not that that's, I appreciate the blend of, modern vernacular architecture with, the colonial, New Georgian architecture, just that, there's specific things that it says, that they recommend not to have, and that's, parapet, a flat roof.
Well, that's
parapet.
where my committee, I'm the pre-construction subcommittee, which oversees, works with the developers, works on all the items that we have issues with,
Okay.
votes on it, and then we bring it to the full CAC for
Okay.
approval. And we're still in that process where Robinson has been very good about working with us, and the adjacent church, which is right beside the property.
Okay.
Which was, very an intricate partner when we were working on the Walgreens.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
More questions? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I still have a couple more points.
Oh, you have more?
I have
With
more,
him?
but not necessarily for, it's more for
Okay,
Mr.
well, you
Royal.
just keep
Yeah.
going.
Okay. All right, the siding of the buildings. So the siding is, you've talked about the plume, getting back to the master plan. I see the restaurant up there. There's Singleton Way, I believe is the,
That's the road on the back, right?
that's the roadway.
Mhm.
And, if I were, looking into the plan, I would think that the setbacks, I think that it says 20 feet. Was that the original intent?
20 foot was the max, was the original
Was the
intent,
max.
for everything to be pushed up close.
Up close, right, up close. And, it's understood that there are environmental constraints with the plume. But there's a row of parking, ideally it would have been, the siding would have had frontage on Singleton Way. There's the restaurant there with the patio, and I think that's gonna look great, right there. But I think there were other opportunities, and I'm not sure if, at this point that there are, but, I think that the intent was to have it more of a pedestrian-friendly, layout.
And that's what we were intending too. Again, we had to figure out a place to put the water quality. And if we had done it with that middle building pushed up front there, we would have been right in the middle of the contaminant, and DEQ is saying, you can't do that. We've got to meet our water quality concerns. So, and this is a conceptual, I think staff is going to be pushing us to make it more pedestrian friendly. I was proposing, a heavier landscaping, kind of hard to see with this two-dimensional drawing here, but something, because I know part of the idea is, you don't want to see a parking lot, you don't want to see cars. And I've done that before with nice landscaping, getting it a little higher so that you don't see the cars behind there. You see a green wall, if you will. So that would be the intent to make up for not having the building there.
Right, at minimum, it seems like if it's supposed to be pedestrian-friendly, accessible, you need to accommodate pedestrians, that you'd have some kind of connectivity, because you see the retail and you see the three businesses on the south with the drive-through, and there's no pedestrian connection there with.
And I totally agree, and I'm looking at it now and thinking there should be more shown on there. I'm highly confident Mr. Tejon and his staff will have us do that with the site plan, but for example, right there at the drive-through, there should be a break in the landscaping so somebody can walk across through there. You put striping, paver, blocks, whatever to connect all of these up such that you can walk into the site if people were walking from Kempsville. Now, it is a busy intersection. I'm not sure how much pedestrian traffic you're going to have crossing that intersection.
No,
It's
it's
kind of
not-
scary.
Yeah.
But
that's
still,
not-
the idea would be to make it more pedestrian friendly, as we're trying to do with all projects now.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Good, thanks.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Stand by. Do we have any speakers on this?
Our only speaker was Mr. Anderson.
Okay. All right. We'll close the hearing, open it up amongst the commissioners. Yes, Mr. Inman.
This project has been worked on for quite a long time by a lot of people. It seems that everybody's in good faith about what they're about, and then we've heard good explanations, I think, of the reasons why it's configured the way it is, not exactly the way everybody would love to have it, but and being done responsibly. It seems that there's serious interest by tenants in the property. We're here to make a land use decision. Property's been on the market for some time without success. I don't see any reason not to approve it, so I would move to approve the application.
Anybody else?
It's that easy, I'll second it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second?
I was gonna second.
Okay.
The vote is open. Excuse me, could you clarify that that's subject to the conditions that were
Oh, yeah,
amended
yes.
in your
Sorry,
packet?
yes. The condition number 2 on the setback will be the building setback should read maximum, not minimum. And on condition number 4, the drive-through facility, this will be added to the condition 4, the drive-through facility shall not utilize exterior speakers that they are audible from any property line adjacent to residential uses.
Yeah, as noted as specifically more noted in the packet. Yes, that's correct.
Good.
Because the supplement that you were providing had more detail regarding condition 2, so I just wanted to be clear.
Oh, yes. Do you want me to read all the setbacks?
Yeah, as long as your motion references the
Okay.
the amended conditions.
Maximum, not minimum. Correct, okay.
The vote is open.
By recorded vote of 8-0, agenda item number 4 has been approved with conditions as amended. Okay, and our last item of business is agenda item number 27, Susan Markley, an application for a conditional use permit short-term rental on property located at 629 14th Street, located in the Beach District.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You state your name for the record, please.
Susan Markley.
Okay.
I bought 629 14th Street for the sole purpose of running an Airbnb. I bought the property April 30th, 2019. Before I bought the property, I researched Virginia Beach new rules on Airbnb and short-term rentals. On page 2 of 5, the stipulation was 1 off-street parking spot will be required for each bedroom. No dimensions were given for the spot the parking was supposed to be. The first thing I did was extend the driveway to my property line. Sorry. The driveway can accommodate 2 cars. I have a picture, I don't have it up there, but I have a picture of 2 cars in the driveway. Because of the nature of my property, built around 1928, and only being 600 square feet, it only fits 1 bedroom, queen-size bed, and the other bedroom is very small. It only fits a bunk bed. So far, only one single-family unit has stayed in the cottage at any one time. I have not had more than one vehicle in the driveway since June 1st. And before check-in, I always ask how many cars will be arriving, and I give detailed instructions regarding pulling the cars in all the way to the edge of the driveway. I understand technically I don't meet the requirements, but practically, my driveway does comply, because you can get 2 cars in there if you pull them both up to the edge of the driveway. Since I bought my little cottage, I have complied with all the rules. I have been a very hands-on owner. I drag the trash cans in every week. I clean the property every week. But because of the nature of my property, I can't comply with this one stipulation. But I believe it still could work with the shortcomings. I'm just a little shy of the regulation, so I'm respectfully requesting a special consideration.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers?
No, ma'am, we do not.
We have any questions? No.
I'll
Go
say
right ahead.
something. So we rode by your house the other day, and there were 2 cars on the driveway. And it looked like they weren't big cars, so it was kind of hard to put. It's hard. It's kind of hard to put 2 cars on there because it doesn't meet the regulations. Hold on a second. And we spent a couple years putting these regulations together. It's not like we just came up overnight and said, we got to follow these regulations. And there's a couple we did last month that I really wasn't happy about passing, but we did anyway. That totally nothing like yours, but I just don't feel this meets the regulation because we have a standard that we have to comply with.
If I can't run this as an Airbnb, I'm probably going to be forced to make it a yearly rental. Then I think the chances are going to be more so to have more than 1 car in there because you're going to have more of a
I understand.
family.
I understand.
I do have to say, we really need, well, I feel very strongly about sticking towards the conditions that we've set forth on these Airbnbs. And you stated right off the bat that that was the intent for this piece of property when you bought it. And April 20th, 2019, we did ride by it. Unfortunately, code-wise, as far as the size of the driveway, according to our city staff, doesn't meet it. And I'm sorry for you, but we just really, that's what we go by now. And that's, I feel real strongly about that. So.
I agree.
Okay. Any
Thank you.
questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to close this hearing now and open it up to the commissioners. Anybody?
I'll start.
Okay.
We're gonna, I'm sorry, do you want to go, Don? Okay, I think we're gonna see more and more of these come up. We have 100 or so ready to come forward to us, and it's gonna be hard to do this, but we came up with these stipulations and this ordinance for a reason, and I hope that we can follow it through.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll recommend denial.
Second.
Go ahead.
The vote is open.
Okay.
Commissioner Wolf.
By a recorded vote of 7-1, agenda item number 27 has been denied.
Can I amend that? Can I amend mine?
Okay, we can reopen the vote.
Yeah, sorry. It was,
Did we not vote it? Did we not do
Okay.
it?
No, we hit it.
I hit the nay.
recommended
So.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry.
Yeah. Madam Chair, we reopened the vote. We could
Okay.
vote again.
All right.
By a recorded vote of 8-0, agenda item number 27 has been denied.
Great. That is the last item
Yes,
for
ma'am.
the day? Great. Is there any other further business? Did we,
What's your name, ma'am?
I'm sorry?
Last name is Cox, Mary Ann Cox.
Was she on the consent agenda?
I think you were on consent.
Yeah, you were
Oh,
on consent.
You were
What's
on
your-
consent, you were approved.
Agenda item 14.
Oh, yes.
Are you-
Oh, yeah.
That's okay. Well, we thank you for staying with us all afternoon.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hope you learned a lot about birds.
Anyway, if there's no further business, before we leave, I just do want to say that we do have 2 new planning commissioners that we'll be welcoming next month, and we are excited to have them. And we look forward to them being a part of the process. Mrs. Klein will be representing Centerville, and Mr. Costin will be our new at-large. And so we are excited to have them join us next month and hope that they rest until we start again. But if we don't have any other further business, on behalf of my fellow commissioners, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today and thank the planning director and his staff on all the work that they did preparing today's agenda. We are adjourned.